This is The Millionaire Next Door, Chapter 2, pages 59 through 65. Technically, you're a millionaire, but spiritually, you're an underaccumulator of wealth, and it's likely that your millionaire status is temporary. These are the people you read about in the newspaper. The press loves to tout freaks of both nature and economics. Will the popular press ever do a story on Mrs. Rule? It's unlikely. Who wants to read about Mrs. Rule? Mrs. Rule's $140,000 home or her 4-year-old Detroit metal sedan? Who wants to see her sitting at the kitchen table 3 nights in a row putting together her family's annual budget? Is there anything exciting about computing and accounting for each dollar spent last year? Would you be thrilled to watch Mrs. Rule compute and allocate future dollars of income into dozens of consumption categories? How long could you stand to watch her carefully complete her annual allocations calendar? Well, it's not fun for Mrs. Rule either. But in Mrs. Rule's mind, there are worse things, such as never being able to retire and never being financially independent. It is much easier to budget if you visualize the long-term benefits of this task. Question 2. Do you know how much your family spends each year for food, clothing, and shelter? Almost 2/3 of millionaires surveyed, 62.4%, answered yes to this question. So did Mrs. Rule. But only about 35% of high-income producing non-millionaires answered yes to this question. Many of these high-income, low-net-worth types have no idea how much they spend each year for such items as food consumed at home, food consumed away from home, beverages, birthday and holiday gifts, each category of clothing for each household member at each store, babysitters, daycare fees, line of credit use, charitable contributions, financial advice, club dues, motor vehicles and related expenses, tuition, vacations, heating and lighting, and insurance. Notice that we did not include mortgage payments in our list. Often high-income/low net worth respondents boast about how much money they save on taxes via their mortgage deductions. Certainly most millionaires who have mortgages outstanding also take advantage of this provision. But most millionaires also account for their other categories of domestic expenditures. Ask typical high-income, low-net-worth people about their goals. What will they tell you? A major goal they often name is to minimize their tax burden. They use the mortgage deduction as a way to accomplish this. Then why don't these same people compute their other domestic expenditures? Simply because they do not perceive any value in doing so. As they see it, most of their domestic spending is not deductible in computing one's taxable income. But Mrs. Rule sees things differently. Her goal is to become financially independent. In her case, to have $5 million by the time she and her husband retire. She believes that budgeting and accounting for domestic consumption is directly related to achieving this goal. In her view, tabulating helps control consumption. It also reduces the probability of allocating too many dollars to product and service categories that are really important. Mrs. Rule has always tabulated expenditures for her business. She realizes that the same system she used for business accounting can be used for domestic purposes. This is an advantage of being self-employed business owner. Mrs. Rule wants to be free of financial worry before her 65th birthday. Each time she tabulates, she tells herself she is reducing her fear of never being able to retire in comfort. Who has concern about their financial future? Not Mrs. Rule. Although she has an annual income of $90,000, she's worth more than 20 times that amount, and she is in control of her household's domestic spending. Robert and Judy, on the other hand, are frightened, and they should be. This couple earns $200,000 annually, or more than twice of that of Mrs. Rule earns. Yet, like so many of today's high-income producing couples, Robert and Judy also have a fraction of Mrs. Rule's wealth. They feel that consumption controls them. not the other way around. Even Mrs. Rule might find it daunting to have an account for $200,000 in expenditures each year. Robert and Judy have 14 credit cards. The Rules have 2, one for business use and the other for domestic spending. Let's talk about credit cards for a moment. Ask a large sample of millionaires a simple question about their credit cards. The results will give you an excellent idea of who these millionaires really are. Mrs. and Mrs. Millionaire, please indicate by circling the appropriate number the credit cards that you or any member of your house possesses. Circle all those that apply. Now close your eyes and pretend you are a millionaire with a net worth of nearly $4 million. What credit cards would be congruent with your situation in life? Perhaps the top of your list would be American Express Platinum, Diners Club, or Carte Blanche. Perhaps you consider yourself a fashion-sensitive millionaire. You may list credit cards from Brooks Brothers, Neiman Marcus, Saks Fifth Avenue, Lord & Taylor, or even Eddie Bauer. You would be in a minority of millionaires if you did list these cards. The results of our national survey of millionaires reveal some interesting credit card preferences. Like most American households, most wealthy households have a MasterCard and a Visa card. The millionaire household is 4 times more likely to hold a Sears card than a Brooks Brothers card. Both Sears and Penny's cards are significantly more popular among the wealthy than the cards of status retailers. Only 21% of the wealthy households in America hold the Neiman Marcus card, 25% Saks Fifth Avenue, 25% Lord & Taylor, and only 8.1% the Eddie Bauer card. Only 6.2% of the millionaire respondents hold the American Express Platinum card, 3.4% hold the Diners Club, and fewer than 1% own Carte Blanche. Table 2.2, Credit Cards of Millionaire Household Members. Question 3. Do you have a clearly defined set of daily, weekly, monthly, annual, and lifetime goals? The source of this question came from the Decamillionaire whom we interviewed a dozen years ago. He told us that he started a wholesale food business at the age of 19. He never finished formal high school, but did eventually receive his high school equivalency diploma. We asked him to account for the fact that although he was a high school dropout, he had accumulated over $10 million. His response was as follows. I have always been goal-oriented. I have clearly defined, set out a set of daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, annual goals, and lifetime goals. I even have goals to go to the bathroom. I always tell our young executives that they must have goals. Mrs. Rule also is goal-oriented, so are most other millionaires. For every 100 millionaires who answered no to this question, there are 180 who answered yes. Who are these no's? Many of the high-income and inherited wealth types discussed in the last section. Many senior citizens and retired millionaires who have already reached most of their goals also answered no. You may wish to reflect for a moment on the comments made by an 80-year-old multi-millionaire. Authors. The first question we always ask is about goals. What are your current goals, Mr. Clark? It was $438 an ounce yesterday in London. After Mr. Clark turned on his hearing aid, he repeated the question. Mr. Clark. Oh, goals, not gold. I see. My goals have accomplished what I've tried to do. My long-range goal was, of course, to accumulate enough wealth so I can get out of the business and enjoy life. I've been down the road. I've got an international reputation. Mine is one of the greatest welding companies in the world. I never want to retire, but my goal is my family and self-satisfaction about what I've accomplished. Mr. Clark is typical of seniors who have accumulated significant wealth. By the way, only 2 millionaires of all those we interviewed never told us that their goal was to spend my last dollar the day that I die. Neither Mr. Clark nor Mrs. Rule has such a goal. Mrs. Rule plans to leave educational trusts for her grandchildren. She also wants to enjoy life now after she retires. She wants to be financially secure. Her financial goal is to accumulate 5 million. Mrs. Rule knows how much she needs to set aside each year to attain her goals. But is she happy? That's a question very often asked as regarding frugal millionaires. Yes, she is happy. She is financially secure. Mrs. Rule enjoys being part of a close-knit family. Her family is everything to her. Her life and her goals are simple. Mrs. Rule does not need a CPA to do her goal planning for her, although she does seek out his counsel in regard to both her domestic and business-related needs. But Robert and Judy, high-income/low net worth couple, are in dire need of a strong, intelligent guiding hand. They need a CPA who has considerable experience in changing his clients' orientations, one who will help them change their household environment from one of chaos and hyperconsumption to one of goal-oriented planning, budgeting, and controlling. Will they then be happy? We don't know, but we can tell you this. Financially independent people are happier than those in their same income/age cohort who are not financially secure. Financially independent people seem to be better able to visualize the future benefits of defining their goals. Mrs. Rule, for instance, visualizes all her grandchildren graduating from college. She visualizes their success after college. She never sees herself being financially dependent on others, even if she is disabled in the future. Her goals are congruent with those most millionaires in this regard. Question 4. Do you spend a lot of time planning your financial future? For every 100 millionaires who answered no, there are 192 who answered yes. Again, many who answered no are either high-income types with relatively low levels of accumulated wealth, those who inherited all or most of their wealth, or wealthy seniors/retirees. People such as Mrs. Rule accurately label themselves as planners. In fact, their responses to this question are highly correlated to the actual hours of respondents allocate to planning their financial futures. On average, millionaires spend significantly more hours per month studying and planning their future investment decisions, as well as managing their current investments, than high-income non-millionaires. The hours allocated to planning and managing finances are detailed in Chapter 3. Millionaires like Mrs. Rule not only spend more time planning their finances than non-millionaires, they also seem to get more out of their planning hours. Remember, Mrs. Rule is not only in the auctioneering business. Her job includes appraising the value of what her company auctions. Often, Mrs. Rule invests in those same areas in which she has considerable expertise. In this regard, she is like many millionaires. They astutely allocate their time so that they can plan their business and personal investing at the same time. We often find that highly productive auctioneers are also excellent investors. Take, for example, an auctioneer who specializes in auctioning commercial real estate. What areas of investments does he know a great deal about? Commercial real estate. He is his own investment analyst. What if your auctioneering specialty is antique furniture and American firearms? Should you invest in high-tech securities? Probably not, but you would be wise to use your expertise to help you make your investments. If you're well versed in antiques, why not leverage your knowledge? You don't have to be an auctioneer to benefit from your knowledge. One of our associates was formerly the head of strategic planning at a major corporation. Part of his job was to study a wide variety of trends across a wide variety of business categories. Years ago, he discovered that the demand for investment-grade baseball cards would likely explode someday. This was long before the market reflected this trend. He invested heavily when the market was asleep. In his words, and he sold out all his holdings, including all his Mickey Mantle rookie cards. At the top of the market, another acquaintance, a manager of a department store, always studied trade journals to learn how to make his store more productive. Later, he leveraged his reading habits into investing in growth stocks in the retailing area. How much time do millionaires allocate to planning and managing? Not enough. As previously stated, much less than millionaires. Although millionaires have much more experience in making investment decisions, they allocate significantly more hours than do non millionaires in an effort to become even better investors. That is one of the main reasons that millionaires remain wealthy.